You make a mistake, you reach for an eraser, and a second later, the mark is gone. But 250 years ago, the only way to lift pencil from paper was a piece of fresh, soft bread. This story begins with a mistake that changed everything. Let's go back to the 18th century. The graphite pencil has been around for over 100 years and it's catching on fast, but nobody has figured out a good way to undo what it writes. Artists, mapmakers, end clerks made do however they could. Most often, they reached for bread. Yes, ordinary bread. Fresh crumb, slightly damp, rolled into a little ball. You pressed it onto dépaige end, rubbed gently. The graphite soaked into the dough and the line slowly faded. It never vanished completely, but it beat nothing at all. The method had just one problem. Bread dries out. After a few hours, it turned hard, crumbled across the page, end stopped working. You had to fetch a fresh loaf. Erasing a pencil mark was, quite literally, a daily expense on bread. The baker was delighted. The mapmaker, not so much. And here our hero walks in. Edward Nairne, a London craftsman who built optical and mathematical instruments. The year is 1770. Nairne runs a busy workshop directly across from the Royal Exchange, right in the beating heart of commercial London. By his own account, one day he reached for some breadcrumbs to rub a pencil mark off a sheet. But he grabbed the wrong thing, a lump of raw rubber sitting beside him on the table. He rubbed the page anyway. The mark disappeared cleaner than it ever had before. Nairne understood at once what he was holding. He started slicing the rubber into little cubes and selling them as erasing tools. The price? 3 shillings for a piece no bigger than half a thumb. For the time, that was a small fortune for a scrap of dried sap from South American trees. Around the very same years, the English chemist Joseph Priestley describes this plant substance shipped in from the New World. And it's Priestley who gives it the English name we still use, rubber. Literally a thing you rub wife. The whole word comes from the gesture of erasing a pencil line. Nairne's rubber cubes quickly caught on wife London's draftsmen and engineers. Word spread across Europe. Within a few years, rubber erasers appeared in Paris, Vienna, and Berlin. But they carried a serious flaw that nobody knew how to fix. And what happened next changes this whole story. Raw rubber was as moody as the island weather. In summer heat, it turned sticky, soft, and reeked so badly you could hardly share a room with it. In the cold, it hardened like stone, and crumbled under your fingers. Over time, it simply rotted. People still kept a piece of bread on standby. The solution arrived almost 70 years later, from a completely unexpected direction. Charles Goodyear, an American inventor from Connecticut, was consumed by a single problem: how to make rubber last. He experimented for years, dragging his family into debt and himself into prison over money he couldn't repay. In 1839, during one of his experiments, Goodyear accidentally dropped a piece of rubber mixed with sulfur onto a hot stove. Instead of melting, the material hardened, yet stayed flexible. Goodyear named the process vulcanization, after Vulcan, the Roman god of fire. Vulcanized rubber didn't rot, didn't stink, didn't go sticky in the heat or crumble in the cold. It was durable, springy, and predictable. That changed everything. The eraser could finally become an everyday object, not a luxury, not a curiosity, but a plain tool in every desk drawer and pencil case. Goodyear himself never saw the fortune. He didn't patent vulcanization until 1844, but he sold licenses for pennies while patent pirates copied his technology on a massive scale. When he died in 1860, he was $200,000 in debt. Meanwhile, someone else had an idea brilliant in its simplicity. Hyman Lipman, an American entrepreneur from Philadelphia, on the 30th of March, 1858, patented a pencil with an eraser fixed to the end. 2 tools in one. Sounds trivial, but a fortune was hiding behind that patent. 4 years later, Lippmann sold the patent to Joseph Reckendorfer for $100,000. Back then, that was an absolute fortune, the equivalent of $3 million today. Reckendorfer immediately sued the Faber Company for patent infringement, counting on even bigger money. The case climbed all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and in 1875 the justices handed down a ruling that entered the history of patent law. They decided that simply combining 2 known objects, a pencil and an eraser, was not a new invention. There was no innovation here. The patent was struck down. Reckendorfer lost his fortune and his lawsuit. But the idea itself proved immortal. Since the patent was void, anyone could copy it, and everyone did. By the 1920s, almost every pencil sold in America carried an eraser on its end. The 20th century brought the eraser one more revolution, this time from Japan. In 1955, the Seed Company of Osaka patented the world's first vinyl eraser under the name Radar. An eraser made of plastic instead of rubber. It sounded strange, but it turned out to be a bullseye. Vinyl erasers rubbed cleaner, left no smears, didn't tear the paper, and were far cheaper to make. Those are the ones you use every day now, even if you still call them rubbers. The Japanese went further still. Pentel released polymer erasers, soft and precise. Tombow built one shaped like a pencil for fixing a single letter. So the next time you reach for an eraser to fix a mistake, pause for a second. You're holding over 250 years of history in your hand. From a ball of bread, through Nairne's lucky accident, Goodyear's obsession and a Supreme Court ruling, to a Japanese revolution in materials. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story of an ordinary object, because the eraser is more than a tool for fixing mistakes. It's proof that D right to err, and to put it right, is one of humanity's most precious inventions. Any mark can be lifted. You just have to know what to rub it with.